You're watching the KUSI News at 5.
California's Supreme Court has overturned the capital punishment sentence for convicted murderer Scott Peterson. He's been on death row for killing his pregnant wife Lacey and their unborn son in 2002. The state Supreme Court ruled some jurors in his trial were erroneously dismissed, partly because of their opposition to the death penalty. California's high court still upheld the murder conviction. The case now goes back to a lower court to determine a new penalty or if they're going to retry the death penalty phase for Peterson. And joining us now to talk about this case and its latest developments is criminal defense attorney and KUSI contributor Vikas Bajaj. Vic, so great to talk to you about this case.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
In layman's terms, first of all, explain the judgment issued today by the Supreme Court.
Well, there's a practical effect and there's legal jargon. The legal jargon says that the case needs to be remanded or sent back down to the Superior Court to either have a new trial as to what the punishment will be, and that is a choice between life without parole for Mr. Peterson or the death penalty again, which was the initial verdict. The appellate court found that there was a problem with the instructions and the voir dire, what we call jury selection, in the case for punishment. In other words, the potential jurors were asked whether they favored or disfavored the death penalty, and the judge heard the answer, and many of them said, we don't like the death penalty. The follow-up question was asked, which was, well, that notwithstanding, were you able or will you be able to follow the law that I give you? And those same jurors that were opposed to the death penalty said, yes, Your Honor, I would still follow that law. And that law, Ginger, is the law that requires the death penalty for certain circumstances being met. But the judge nonetheless kicked those jurors off of the potential jury for Mr. Peterson. So the appellate court said, well, you've passed one part of the two-part test, but you failed the second. So if jurors say they're willing to follow the law, irrespective of their personal feelings, well, that's good enough for government work, and they should be on that jury.
All right. So what happens next as far as, I mean, I know that his defense team has said many times that he has a right to an impartial jury, but, you know, this trial has been highly publicized. So how do you get somebody that's going to meet those criteria that then won't get overturned and is at the same time impartial?
Well, that's very difficult. And jury selection in a case like this, especially the penalty phase, determining between life without parole and death, can take sometimes months. But the reality is this. The appellate court said, let's punt this back to the Superior Court, the trial court, and you now need to have a new punishment phase. The reality, though, is Governor Newsom in the state of California here in 2016, while looking at what the voters said we approve of the death penalty. We want it to be on the table for certain crimes. Governor Newsom in 2019, last year, said, well, I don't care what the voters say. I'm going to thwart that desire, and we're going to take it off the table in California. So, Ginger, the reality is that the death penalty is an illusion in the state of California. The last time somebody was executed or even sentenced was 2006. This crime happened in 2002 for Mr. Peterson, so it's an illusion. There is no reality that he would jump the 742 some odd people on death row now and be executed. So my gut instinct says that the parties may come together and reach a stipulation of life without parole to prevent putting this victim and the victim's family, of course, through the heart-wrenching testimony to prove that death is appropriate here.
All right. So once again, nothing is going to change the conviction. He is still convicted of murder. This is simply the penalty phase. So what's the timeline on now this penalty phase and the, what-if scenarios?
I'd say within a month, it's going to make its way back to a hearing with the Superior Court. The judge will then encourage the parties to go in chambers or virtual chambers, really try to discuss whether it's worth the effort and the pain and the labor and the expense of having a full-blown punishment trial, and again, push ethically to have the parties stipulate, in my opinion, to a stipulated life without parole sentence. That's what I see happening in this case, Ginger.
Very interesting. I know all eyes are going to be on that. Vic, I've got to find out, where are you playing golf in that picture behind you?
That's my local club, the Grand Del Mar. I was fortunate enough to win the club championship one year, and I tell my wife about it every day, and every once in a while someone asks me a question like you just did.
That is so great. All right, we're going to have to get you a Dave Scott. You guys have to, hit the links together.
Anytime. I'm always up for a meeting.
That's awesome. Vic, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.